It was supposed to be routine, a quiet checkup, a normal day at the private clinic. But just 1 hour ago, everything changed. Princess Kate Middleton, always composed and radiant, was rushed into emergency care after doctors made a chilling discovery during her scan. Prince William, mid-meeting at Windsor, dropped everything the moment he got the call. No headlines had prepared us for this. Behind the palace gates, panic has gripped the royal family. What did they find? And why is the future queen suddenly at the center of a silent crisis? The morning that changed everything. On the morning of November 14th, 2025, inside the quiet walls of Adelaide Cottage, life seemed perfectly normal. The Princess of Wales, Catherine, moved through her routine, preparing breakfast for Prince Louis, while George and Charlotte finished getting ready for school. The air was calm. The pace was familiar. But when Catherine paused at the sink, a sudden, sharp ache in her lower abdomen made her freeze, just for a second. She hid it quickly and kept moving. At 7:35 a.m., Prince William walked into the kitchen, finishing a call with Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. He noticed the hesitation in Kate's movement. "Still hurting?" he asked gently. She smiled and tried to brush it off, just like she had for the past 10 days. But this time, William didn't accept it. "Kate, enough. No more delays. Call Dr. Aldridge today." His voice was firm, his worry barely concealed. Reluctantly, she agreed. She texted the royal physician as she poured her tea. "Just a quick check, then I'll be back," she said. Neither of them knew that this checkup would turn their world upside down in less than 8 hours. Catherine believed she'd be in and out of the hospital by lunchtime. But as her convoy pulled into St. Mary's private medical wing at 9:10 a.m., something had already shifted. What began as a routine exam was about to spiral into a quiet emergency. Behind the security guards and polished marble, one of Britain's most respected doctors was about to discover something that would stop everything and start a royal crisis. The checkup that turned deadly serious. By 9:30 a.m., Catherine sat across from Dr. Stephen Aldridge, who had served the royal family for over 17 years. Calm, experienced, and loyal, he was used to handling everything from sprained ankles to pregnancy complications with discretion. Catherine described her pain, dull, low, and stubborn. Her voice was steady, but her complexion was pale. He noticed her shallow breathing and faint tension in her posture. He ordered a basic scan. By 10:05 a.m., Catherine was inside the imaging suite. The technician smiled, made small talk, and Catherine replied with warmth, chatting about Charlotte's art project and Louis's new favorite breakfast. But outside the room, Aldridge stared at the screen, frowning. A faint shadow flickered on the lower side of her abdomen. Not an artifact, not a glitch, something real. He didn't panic. Instead, he ordered more tests immediately and called in Dr. Fiona Blake, a diagnostic specialist from Oxford Medical Center. "Just a precaution," he told Catherine. She nodded, unbothered. But within 40 minutes, her name had been escalated on the hospital's internal system to priority case, royal tier. Kate remained calm, unaware. But her scan had triggered alarm behind closed doors. Specialists were being called in. Terms like density and internal mass were exchanged between doctors with hushed urgency. And while Catherine waited, flipping through a magazine and texting Charlotte's nanny, a young nurse was about to find something the experts had missed. And what she uncovered would push the situation into full-blown emergency mode. The scan that froze the room. At 11:25 a.m., Nurse Emma Chen, a 26-year-old newly assigned to the royal rotation, reviewed Catherine's third scan. At first glance, it looked routine, until she spotted something subtle but unmistakable. A second, smaller density near a nerve cluster. One shadow could be benign. Two, aligned in that way, meant something worse. Her heart pounded. She'd seen dozens of scans during her training, but this one chilled her. Emma circled the anomaly, attached the updated file, and called Aldridge directly. "Doctor, there's something else," she whispered. He arrived in under 3 minutes, studied the new image, and went still. The situation had just escalated again. Meanwhile, Catherine sat alone in room 4A, smiling at a text from George's tutor, unaware of the storm brewing around her. When Emma re-entered to check her vitals, Catherine saw the unease on her face. "Is everything okay?" she asked. Emma hesitated. "The doctors are just being thorough, ma'am," she replied. But Catherine wasn't convinced. By 11:45 a.m., Aldridge returned with 2 sealed folders. His smile was gone. "We'll need to run one more test, Your Royal Highness," he said gently. Behind the scenes, the language had shifted. This was no longer a checkup. It was the beginning of a royal medical emergency. The young nurse who saw what others missed. At 12:05 p.m. in the softly lit diagnostic bay of St. Mary's Hospital, Nurse Emma Chen, only 26 years old and 8 months into her royal medical rotation, reopened Catherine's latest scan on a larger monitor. She wasn't required to, her shift duties were already complete, but something about the earlier image tugged at her instincts. She zoomed in again, adjusting the contrast, and then she saw it. A second density, positioned dangerously close to a nerve cluster responsible for lower abdominal function. A pattern like this wasn't common. And to someone trained to see symmetry, it was the opposite. Irregular, intrusive, alarming. Her heart thumped heavily against her chest. She checked the earlier scans again, pulling up the 10:05 a.m., 10:48 a.m., and 11:12 a.m. images. All 3 showed the same shadow, subtle, but there. How had this slipped through initial review? She swallowed hard. She knew exactly what this could mean, and what it usually meant. She grabbed the nearest phone and called Dr. Aldridge's private line, her voice shaking. "Doctor, I think you need to see this right away." He arrived in under 180 seconds, leaned over the screen, and went absolutely still. He whispered, No, this can't be ignored." Emma followed him back to room 4A, her palms sweating. Catherine sat with her handbag on her lap, waiting patiently, expecting a simple explanation. But Emma couldn't hide the worry flickering across her face. Catherine noticed instantly, after 13 years in the public eye, she had learned to read people the way others read headlines. "Is something wrong?" she asked, her tone calm but sharp. Emma froze, glancing at Aldridge. He stepped in before she could answer. "We need just a bit more clarity, Your Royal Highness," he said. But his voice wasn't as smooth as before. As Aldridge gently explained the need for more imaging, Catherine's expression tightened. She wasn't panicked yet, but she was no longer at ease. She placed her phone down, folded her hands, and nodded slowly. Meanwhile, Emma stood near the door, guilt tightening her chest. She wished she could smile, pretend everything was fine, offer warmth, but she couldn't. Not after seeing what she saw. Not after realizing something that serious had been sitting inside one of the most beloved women in the world. While the doctors prepared the next round of tests, someone else was about to be pulled into the crisis. Someone who had no idea how bad things had become. At 12:31 p.m., a message was drafted and flagged with the highest priority code available to the Royal Comms system. only one person it was meant for. And when Prince William finally saw the notification flash across his screen, every bit of royal training, composure shattered in an instant. William's race against time. At 12:36 p.m., inside a meeting room at Windsor Castle, William was reviewing briefing notes regarding a 3 p.m. charity conference call. His morning had been uninterrupted. No alarms, no emergencies, nothing unusual. Then his phone buzzed with a coded message from the Royal Medical Team. 4 words that turned his blood to ice. "Please come immediately. Urgent." William blinked. Once, twice, then he stood so quickly his chair nearly fell backward. His private secretary tried to stop him. "Sir, shall I reschedule?" But William was already out the door. As he rushed down the hallway, memories flooded him. Catherine rubbing her side during the November 3rd reception, the quiet wince she'd hidden on November 8th, the long pause she made bending down to pick up Louis's toy 2 mornings earlier. He replayed every moment he dismissed, every time she said, "I'm fine," every time he believed her. And beneath it all sat a rising, suffocating guilt. He should have pushed sooner. He should have insisted. What if they were too late now? He reached the car entrance at 12:41 p.m. The police escort was already prepared. Blue lights ready, route cleared. The ride to St. Mary's normally took 22 minutes, but today it felt like a lifetime compressed into seconds. Red lights blurred by. Traffic halted. People stared as the convoy tore across London. William sat forward, elbows on knees, palms pressed to his mouth. His chest tightened each time he checked the clock. 12:48, 12:52, 12:56. Time had become his enemy. When the car pulled up to the hospital at 12:59 p.m., William didn't wait for the door to be opened. He sprinted inside, past guards and staff, straight to the private medical wing. His steps echoed loudly, but his mind was silent. Silent except for one prayer repeating over and over. "Let her be okay, let her be okay, please, let her be okay." When William entered the consultation suite, everything changed. Catherine was sitting quietly, hands trembling slightly, eyes tired, but trying to smile for him. The doctors stood nearby with sealed folders, grim expressions, and clinical urgency. What William was about to hear would not only freeze him in place, it would redefine the next hours, the next days, maybe the rest of their lives. The truth was here now, and it wasn't gentle. The silent room where truth was waiting. William stepped into the room at 1:02 p.m., breath unsteady. Catherine looked up, offering the smallest, bravest smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. He crossed the room in seconds, taking her hands. She squeezed his fingers gently, as if apologizing for needing him there. Around them, the air felt heavy, suffocating, filled with quiet dread. The doctors closed the door behind him, sealing the truth inside. Dr. Aldridge, holding 2 sealed medical folders, moved toward the couple. He had known William for nearly 2 decades, had attended the birth of all 3 royal children, had guided the family through dozens of health matters. But this was different. He cleared his throat. "Your Royal Highnesses, we found something we need to bring to your attention." His tone was soft, but unyielding. Catherine straightened, eyes focused. William's grip on her tightened. Aldridge opened the first folder, revealing the scans from 10:05 a.m., 10:48 a.m., and 11:12 a.m. He explained the discovery carefully but honestly. A growth, irregular in shape, located in a sensitive abdominal region. He emphasized urgency. Delaying treatment could have led to dangerous complications within weeks, maybe even days. Catherine listened without interrupting, her breath shallow but composed. William's face drained of color. He asked questions: treatment length, surgical risk, recovery time, all marked with numbers and probabilities he struggled to absorb. Then Aldridge delivered the sentence that struck deepest. "It is good we found this today. If we had waited, even another 10 days, the situation could have been irreversible." Catherine inhaled sharply. William's head lowered as though the weight of those words pressed down on his shoulders. She whispered, "Okay, what happens next?" And in that moment, they were no longer the future king and queen. They were simply a husband and wife facing something terrifying together. The worst had finally been spoken aloud. But the emotional earthquake wasn't over. As the doctors stepped out to prepare the next phase of tests, William and Kate were left alone with the truth. Raw, brutal, and immediate. Yet beyond their door, the hospital team was already uncovering something else. Something they had not told them. Something that could change the understanding of her condition entirely. And this secret would not stay hidden much longer. The diagnosis that shook the palace. At exactly 1:24 p.m., the consultation room fell into heavy silence. Kate sat on the edge of the examination table, her back straight, but her hands visibly trembling in her lap. William remained beside her, one hand on hers, the other clenched around the edge of his seat. Across from them, Dr. Aldridge prepared to speak again, this time with complete transparency. "We've identified the growth as a complex cystic mass," he said, carefully enunciating every word. "It's currently 3.4 centimeters, sitting just above a key nerve junction." That measurement landed like thunder. It wasn't microscopic. It wasn't small. It was real, and real things could do damage. Catherine asked quietly, "Is it cancer?" Aldridge hesitated. "We can't say for sure. Not yet. But its behavior suggests it could be a borderline malignant tumor." The phrase was sterile, but the meaning behind it chilled the room. William stared ahead, his breath barely audible. The word malignant echoed through his mind like a war drum. Dr. Aldridge continued, "We will move forward with an urgent biopsy and, depending on the results, initiate treatment within 72 hours. Timing is critical, but I want to stress, you came in early enough. You didn't wait too long." Kate nodded, absorbing the information like a soldier hearing orders before battle. But her mind had drifted elsewhere, to George, Charlotte, and Louis. "Will I be able to be with my children?" she asked. Her voice was calm, but under it sat raw fear. Aldridge's reply was measured but honest. "We'll do everything in our power. With your physical strength and early detection, there's a strong chance for recovery. But we must act decisively." He looked to William. "There will be hard days, but we're not without hope." As doctors exited, the walls seemed to close in around William and Catherine. They had faced public storms, royal scandals, and global pressure. But nothing prepared them for this silent war. And yet, within these sterile hospital walls, something even deeper was unfolding. Because, while the day had delivered one devastating truth, there was another, still hidden from them. Another scan, another layer, something the hospital team hadn't revealed. Not yet. Because even in the darkest rooms, secrets have a way of finding light. The hidden breakdown behind closed doors. By 2:06 p.m., the consultation room had emptied. Catherine was resting on the hospital cot, eyes closed, body still. Monitors beside her beeped quietly, offering rhythmic reassurance. But across the room, William stood by the wide glass window, staring blankly at the autumn leaves swirling outside. His jacket had been folded neatly over a chair. His hands now gripped the sill like a man trying not to fall. In 22 years of royal duty, William had remained composed through grief, war zone visits, death, and scandal. But this was different. This was personal. This was Kate. His Kate. The woman he'd loved since 2001, who had stood by him through every storm, who had given him 3 children and an anchor he never thought he'd find. And now, one scan, one word, had threatened to unravel it all. He thought about George's soccer practice, about how Charlotte loved Kate's bedtime stories, about how Louis always asked for just one more hug. What would he tell them if the worst happened? How could he explain something like this to children who still thought of monsters as things hiding under their beds? His chest ached, not from fear alone, but guilt. He replayed every moment she'd said, "I'm fine," and he believed her. Every time he thought she was just tired. Every time he let her brush it off. If anything happened to her, his jaw tightened. And then, quietly, the tears came. Not loud, not dramatic, but real. Behind him, a gentle sound. The soft rustle of sheets. Catherine stirred. Her eyes met his, and she reached out, palm up, wordless. William crossed the room, knelt beside her, and placed his hand in hers. No speeches, just presence. They were still here, still fighting. In the room, quiet settled again. William had cried. Kate had held his hand, and for a moment the storm paused. But while love anchored them, medicine continued its cold calculations. Outside their room, doctors and nurses gathered for a second time. A newer scan had been flagged, one they hadn't fully analyzed before. Nurse Emma Chen stood outside the door with trembling hands, clutching a folder, because what they'd found now could change everything. The promise in the dark. By 3 p.m., the hospital was bathed in fading light. Inside room 4A, Kate had finally fallen into a deeper sleep. Her fingers still curled lightly around William's. A nurse came in quietly to adjust the IV line, then exited without a word. The beeping monitors continued their steady hum. Time seemed suspended. William gently brushed a loose strand of hair from her face. For a moment, he wasn't the Prince of Wales. He wasn't thinking of titles or thrones. He was just a man terrified of losing his wife. But then she stirred again, eyes fluttering open. This time she was more alert. "Still here?" she whispered, her voice dry. "Always," he said softly. He pressed his forehead to hers. They stayed like that. No cameras, no headlines, just silence. After a few moments, Kate spoke again. "We'll get through this, one step at a time." William nodded. He didn't say, "Yes." He didn't say, "I hope so." He just nodded, because belief didn't need volume. It just needed presence. And they were both still here. That was enough. They began to talk about the children, about how to tell them, what words to use. William suggested Sunday afternoon when everyone was home. Kate agreed. They didn't want fear. They wanted honesty. Simple words, gentle truths. "Mummy's going to the doctor for a little while, but she'll be okay." They hoped it would be true. And then, for the first time that day, they smiled. Not fully, but enough. Enough to feel human again. But outside that moment of calm, Nurse Emma Chen stood with Dr. Aldridge in a quiet hallway. She handed him the newest scan, the 3:11 p.m. update that showed something the earlier ones had missed. A second area of concern, deeper, harder to reach. Aldridge studied it, his brow furrowed. The implications were serious, and Kate didn't know yet. Not because they were hiding it, but because they weren't sure how to say it. But one secret remains. By 3:28 p.m., the newest scans had been uploaded to the hospital's central system. They were clearer, sharper, taken with updated contrast and depth. On the second abdominal layer, Dr. Aldridge identified what he quietly labeled as a shadowed extension, roughly 1.6 centimeters in size, appearing below the original growth, close to an arterial path. If it was what he feared, the treatment plan would shift drastically. It wasn't just about surgery anymore. It could mean long-term management, possibly chemotherapy. He didn't call William. Not yet. He didn't enter the room. He wanted confirmation. A second radiologist, another scan. Protocol mattered now. The stakes were enormous. In the radiology control room, 2 senior consultants joined Aldridge. They examined the scan with high-resolution tools. Their conclusion wasn't final, but it wasn't optimistic. Could be vascular involvement, one of them said. If so, we'll need to discuss options tonight. Meanwhile, Kate rested. William paced, unaware of the second storm forming just meters away. At 3:51 p.m., Aldridge called the palace and requested a meeting for 8 p.m. with the family medical advisor. Quiet protocol was being activated, contingency plans reviewed. And though Kate still hadn't been told about the second finding, the walls were closing in. By 4 p.m., one thing was certain. Her journey was no longer routine. It was now a royal medical crisis, and soon the entire world would know. As the sun sets behind hospital walls, Catherine, Princess of Wales, now lies under close watch. Her medical team working around the clock. The scan raised more questions than answers, but one thing is clear. This was no minor issue. Sources confirm that specialists have been flown in, and William is refusing to leave her side. For the royal family, the world may still be watching coronations and state visits, but for them, time has stopped. This isn't a public appearance. It's a private battle, one that could change everything. What was found during that scan? Why was the word malignant whispered in the corridor? And how long has Kate been hiding the truth from the public eye? 1 hour ago, it was just another royal morning. Now it's a race against time. Stay close. This story is just beginning.